no!
Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz. This is another episode of The Next Level in which I have a guest co-host, and together we talk about the interview of the week and bring out some of the key topics in order to deliver them as some advice and specific tactical strategies for you to use to bring your own business to the next level. And before I introduce today's guest co-host, I want to mention that last week's interview was a panel that I hosted for Bride Lux in New York City. It was recorded live, and it was featuring Sylvia Weinstock, Cece Johnson, and Christian Oth. And the topic was all about creating personal connection and relationship building, and it was really fun. There was no The Next Level with it, so it was just a Monday release. But I urge you to check it out. It was just so much fun and very interesting. And so, without further ado, I'm so excited to announce today's guest co-host, Tara Fay. Hey, Tara.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And for anyone who could possibly not know who Tara is, she is just an absolute brilliant event planner and designer based in Dublin, Ireland, who is also the co-star of RTE Ireland's production of My Big Day, Home or Away. And the guest who we're going to be speaking about together is Tara's co-star on My Big Day. It is Bruce Russell. Bruce is based in London, planning, designing, and coordinating weddings and parties and other events around the globe. He was awarded Best Wedding Planner by Belle International Bridal Awards, and Bruce has been featured in numerous international publications, and his TV appearances do include the show My Big Day, Home or Away with Tara. Oh, and let me mention to everybody too, Tara is going to be on the show next week. Tara, I'm so excited to have you.
You'd be sick of me by then.
No, definitely not. I loved our interview. I was just checking it out the other day to take notes on it. And so everyone's got to tune in next week to hear Tara. Yeah, Tara, so as far as some of the topics that came up with Bruce, in terms of process, he talked about process with clients and how when he meets them, he realizes that they often haven't really had such a thorough conversation about it as a couple. So he feels almost like a therapist in order to get them to really open up. How did you feel about that?
I mean, it is so true. And Bruce and I speak about this a lot. Like a lot of the times when a couple is coming to you, they actually haven't talked through what they want for the wedding, because sometimes there will always be somebody leading the conversation. And whether it's not always the bride, sometimes it's the groom. And it is to try and sort of wade through that sort of huge emotional baggage that they're going to bring with them, because maybe they haven't had a conversation about the type of wedding they want. Maybe she's always dreamed of one type of thing and he's had a completely different vision in mind. So a lot of it is sort of like sitting with them, giving them their headspace and getting them to open up to you, because it's huge, the trust element that you're required to have in your couple, and they and you, starts at that very first initial meeting when you sort of try to get an idea of the type of people they are, the type of wedding they want, and the experience they want to create for their guests.
Well, and what if you don't, as a planner, as a designer, what if you don't feel a good connection with the clients? I mean, I assume that must have come up in your career. How do you deal with that?
I mean, always. That is always going to happen. Not everybody is right for you, nor are you the right planner for every couple. And, it's nearly like speed dating sometimes, or going on a first date when you're interviewing planners. And when I meet a couple for the first time, I'll go, have you met with other people? If they say they haven't, I go, well, I urge you to, because maybe we're not the right fit for each other. Maybe, you want something different, or maybe, just to sort of to solidify the notion in your head that you want to work with me. And Bruce does this the exact same way. You're not going to be right for everybody. And maybe, we can recommend somebody or maybe make a suggestion. I mean, I'm a big believer in go with your gut. It doesn't always work, but sometimes you'll go, this is never going to work out. I know it. And you have to say that out at the very beginning. Sometimes it's scary, like sometimes you need to meet targets and you want to say yes because it's, it's a nice chunk to take on, but that's not fair on you. It's not fair on your team, and it's definitely not fair in the clients.
But do you have a technique by which you bring it up with the client? It's such a sensitive topic. What What if they seem totally interested, but you realize that this is not a couple you want to be working with for the next year or so? How would you say that to them?
I mean, well, how do you break up with someone?
Right. That's a good point.
It's the same.
A text message.
No, definitely not a Post-it stuck on the door. I don't think so. At the end of the day, a client that doesn't end up being your client is still a PR story for you. And if you've handled it sensitively, they will be the people that will be your best advocates going forward. So you can never end anything on a bad note, because that's not good for anybody. So it is about handling it sensitively, just saying, look, I don't think I am the right fit for you. However, I know the exact person who is going to be.
Yes.
And people do appreciate you saying things like that.
Well, I think the way you just framed it makes it easier if I was in the client's shoes to be able to hear it. I like the way you said it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is different. Everybody's requirements are different, and not everybody is meant to get on in the world.
Yeah. Well, and kind of connected to this is how Bruce was pointing out that people make their decisions emotionally. They're really, and it's often financial issues in particular, but generally speaking, making decisions with your heart is what he said. And you got to give the possible repercussions.
That never ceases to amaze me. I think it is just quite bonkers sometimes that people will come to me, and they go to Bruce as well, like a part of the way through the process, and you go, how did you make this decision? As I say to people that, this is one of the more important decisions and financial decisions that you're going to make in your life. But sometimes, they're going to spend a lot of their life paying for it in many ways, because they haven't thought it through at the very beginning. And it is very difficult because, they have so many pressures, so many family pressures from each other, from their friends, from peers. And they just want to make decisions and get on. And some people just have a list and they just want to tick their way through the list.
Yeah.
And they're just making it just to get it done, or what they think they want. And it's very costly mistakes sometimes that they make, because they're making those decisions without thinking it through. I mean, they're not going to buy a car without having a report in it. They're definitely not going to buy a house without having an engineer's report and, checking and having some legal input. But yet they will go and spend hundreds of thousands of euro and pounds and dollars on one day without thinking it through.
That's right. So you're talking about slowing them down and getting them to focus where they need to really thoroughly examine it.
Completely. I mean, I say to them, we are going to get through this. And that's the reason that they're hiring a planner, is to help them in that process. It astounds me sometimes that people think that, oh, but my friend planned her wedding, or my sister, and they're going to do it. They're going to be able to help me with it. And you're going, well, sorry, you're spending upwards of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on this. Why are you trusting it to somebody else? You're not going to sign a lease contract agreement for a rental of a studio apartment without checking it out.
That's right. Also, before we started to record, when you and I were just chatting on the phone, you had brought up, I thought this was a great point, how Bruce talked about when he worked at the Savoy, how you were saying that hoteliers are not really trained to show a venue as a wedding venue. And I don't think anyone's brought this up before. Can you say more about that, Tara?
Yeah, and it's something that Bruce and I have started working on together under our Bruce and Tara Live brand. It's where we go into hotels, our venues, and we talk them through it from the bride and groom's point of view, so that we say, look, you are selling this as, this is where we put our top table, this is where the cake goes, this is where the guests come in, at this time is when we change the room around, this is where the bar goes. And we go, hold on, step back a bit. That's like you can have menu A, B, or C. What if somebody doesn't want that? What if they want, the starter from menu A, they want the dessert from menu C, and they want something in between for everything else? If you want to sell cookie cutter weddings, fine. However, if you're, as a venue, wondering why you are not getting the different type of weddings, why are you always getting the same clients? It's because they're always, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again,
yes,
and expecting a different result. So what we do is we go into hotels and venues, we go, what is your ideal client now? Who are the clients that you're attracting? This is what your ideal client is looking for. And we walk them through the sales process This is how you show it to them. You start at the front door and you ask them what it is they want, but you have to listen to them as well.
Yes. And, a little bit earlier, you were mentioning cookie cutter weddings. And Bruce also brought up the whole issue of flow and entertainment being a critical element, keeping the senses occupied, making sure that the guests are continuously entertained. And then you and I were talking earlier about the customization aspect of it. It's interesting, Tara. I can't even count how many planners I've dealt with who have a template for a timeline. It's so frustrating to me because I view, even though weddings, there's obviously similarity between weddings and similar demographics of who attends, but still the combination of who's there and the tastes of the couple completely vary. And so I don't understand anyone having like a timeline that is a template, which is how you manifest the flow of the parties through the timeline. That's so interesting to me.
Oh, no, it's completely. And I mean, you can't have a template for a wedding because no two weddings are alike, just like no two people are alike. I mean, even just take a ceremony, for example. Depending on how many guests you have will determine the length of music that's required at the end for your reception or for your guests leaving. And all of these things have to be taken into account. So, if I'm putting a timeline together, I'll go, well, tell me about your ceremony. Who is your celebrant? How many people? What type of ceremony is? Is it a full Catholic mass? All of these different elements, because then we have to factor music into all of those different parts. We have to allow for movement of guests. You can't just have a template for one event and expect it to work all through the year. I don't think it's respectful to your couples because you are expecting them to fit into your schedule and not the other way around.
Exactly that.
I mean,
That's
they're
right.
hiring you for your expertise.
Right.
They're paying you to advise them. They haven't done this before. Well, some of them have. But, they want a different experience. And it is up to us as wedding professionals to give them that experience that they crave.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's interesting. It gets to the point where, I have to be very careful, diplomatically speaking, if there is no party, like for me with my music company, Kushner Entertainment, if there is no party planner, then I will create the timeline. And I find that in the U.S., I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but in the U.S., if there's no planner, it's the director of catering. However, I find the director of caterings, at least the directors who know me, love it. They're like, yes, Andy, great. Go ahead and create the timeline. Let me just look at it and give my blessing on it. And then if there is a planner, I have to walk a very fine line, when I talk to them about the timeline, because I find they hand me these, I can tell they're just a template, and I'm in charge of entertainment, which is the music and entertainment, which is a huge critical element of any of these weddings or any kind of an event. And it's hard for me to figure out how to bring that up. It's a delicate matter, because I feel that the planner is running the party. I'm part of the team, yet I see what's going on with these templates.
Yes, but at the end of the day, if you don't do a great job because the music isn't great, because you haven't been given your time to perform properly or to go in and set up and to sound check correctly, that's going to be reflected in the performance that you give. And unfortunately, that is going to come back to you.
That's right. And we're all there for the client. Well, I think there's time for one more topic, Tara.
Sure.
Bruce brought up, as far as your TV show, and I know that, again, next week in your interview, we're going to also hear more about it. And for those of you who did not have a chance to listen to Bruce's interview, you should really go back and hear it, because there's a very interesting segment about the TV show that Tara and Bruce do together. But one particular element I want to pull out of it, he talked about working with a digital brand agency.
Yes.
And I wonder if you, but we didn't get into a lot of detail. I wonder what do you say about that? Can you tell us more about what that means?
So that's actually been fascinating. So we had Christine Tralick from Red Bliss designed our logo and helped us come up with our name. And then from that, we went to a digital brand and marketing agency in Ireland. And we have been working with them for the last number of months. They're just going to start doing some market research for us. And that has been absolutely fascinating, seeing it through another set of eyes, as to we had very definite opinions of what we thought we wanted. And they were actually able to sit with us and hone those ideas and turn it into an actual brand book, so that from now on, they get us. they were able to make us see things through a different set of lenses, essentially, and look at a market that we wouldn't have gone after. Like we work with sort of maybe a high-end luxury client, but our market for Bruce and Tara Live is they've created a persona for that. So we have our bride, she has a name, she has a specific set of attributes, and that is now our target market and our client. And that was so useful because some of the elements from that we were actually able to apply to our own business as well.
I was just going to say, I would think that the idea of a brand book and creating an avatar for the typical couple that you're dealing with is something we could all use, not just for like a TV show, but yeah, for our businesses. That really stuck out to me.
Completely. And also because the language that you're going to use with one client is going to be very different to the language that we're going to use for this client segment.
Yeah. I'm so glad we started talking about that. I feel like I could do a whole episode just on building a brand book, It's that important.
It was fascinating.
Yeah. Well, that is all we have time for today. I want to thank everyone for listening. Be sure to check out the site of our guest co-host, Tara Fay. Tara, am I saying this right? Xena-productions.com. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's actually, I've changed it because I've done some branding of my own, and it's now tarafay.ie.
Awesome. That's great. So tarafay.ie, this is all going to be in the show notes also. And in terms of Bruce's site, it is bybrucerussell.com, bybrucerussell.com. His social media handle is by Bruce Russell. And Tara, what about your social media handles? So was that changed too? What is that?
That is now, it's Tara Fay Events on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Okay, great. Gee, I realize I keep calling you Tara. Is it actually Tara?
No, it is Tara.
Oh, it is Tara. Okay, it's the accent right in the middle.
It is Tara, yeah.
Okay.
And thank you for checking because I know that I answer to most things.
Yeah, me too.
I know Tara Gerard and I have had this conversation that she prefers to be called Tara also.
Yeah. No, that's great. So also want to mention the handle for The Wedding Biz is at The Wedding Biz. And again, be sure to check out the website of theweddingbiz.com where you can get the show notes. And also, if you enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did, please share it with your friends and colleagues so they can find out about the show. And next week's guest, as I mentioned before, is Tara Fay. And so be sure to tune in next Monday. We want to thank our sponsor for today's episode. It's Kushner Entertainment, KushnerEntertainment.com. And we'll catch you all next week on The Wedding Biz.